If you put Julianne Moore in a film, I'm going to watch it. If there's a film that details some kind of incident involving a child, I'm going to watch it. And that's certainly two things that drew me to A Map of the World, the 1999 film directed by Scott Elliott, and starring, of course, Julianne Moore and Sigourney Weaver. And this film has a rating of 6.6 out of 10 on IMDb, which is actually higher than I was expecting, and probably... Well, let's just say the film was not exactly what I was hoping for, but I still really enjoyed it. So I'll read the description from IMDb, and actually quite nicely this doesn't give too much away. I was going to say what the incident was, but IMDb doesn't, and I think I'm going to keep you dumb about that, because it might come as a surprise if you don't expect it. So the description reads as follows. School nurse Alice Goodwin lives with her husband and 2 daughters on a dairy farm in a small Wisconsin community. After an accident on her property involving a friend's child, the town turns against her and Alice finds herself fighting charges of child abuse. So Alice, our protagonist, is played by Sigourney Weaver, and as that little description suggested, something horrible happens to a child that she is looking after for her friend. And those scenes, actually, when that unfolds, is really quite intense and quite moving and quite powerful, and I was really pleased with how they did that. I thought that, the tone was spot on. It was, it was tastefully done, because obviously, unfortunately, similar things do happen to children, but it was still atmospheric and intense. As the narrative progresses, it does maintain my interest for the most part. Alice as a character is very likeable, very easy to get on with. I wanted the best for her. I didn't blame her. I don't know any viewer who would blame her, I think. But it's quite hard to watch insofar as you can see her increasingly struggling with this blame and what happened and what might happen. She doesn't know what the future holds for her. And ultimately it's about Alice. It's not really about what happened to the child. It's not necessarily a detective story trying to work out what caused this tragic thing. It's about Alice, her state of mind, and what may happen to her. And it is actually a really beautiful film, and it's very well done, and Sigourney Weaver gives a really moving, emotive performance as Alice. There's nothing about the narrative that I would change. There's nothing about it I would change, but I think there were things that I would add. I think it could have been a little bit longer, even though it's 2 hours, but by that I don't mean let's just add a chunk on the end. I mean, there are certain scenes that I would have liked to have seen a bit more developed, but I guess on the flip side, there are certain scenes that I think could have been either cut out or completely truncated and removed from the film. So it's kind of balanced, I guess. The narrative is fine. As it went on, it kind of dipped in the middle, but then it kind of heightens up again. But ultimately, I really enjoyed watching Sigourney Weaver play the character of Alice. I thought she did a fantastic job with this quite complicated situation and the emotions that come with that. I really thoroughly enjoyed it. As I said, 6.6 for me was maybe a bit high, but I think a 6, a 6 would be a solid 6 is what I'd give this. Absolutely worth watching. It is quite, moving and powerful. And I think you have to be in the right frame of mind, because it can be quite difficult to watch. But again, for all the right reasons. If it sounds like your kind of film, which I hope it does, definitely give it a go. Although it's not my favourite film I've ever seen about a child involved in an accident, it is a really good example of how to do this narrative tastefully while making it still really engaging. A Map of the World, pretty decent.